Alright, let's go downstairs. How's our favorite bot? I think I've been using the bot wrong. Racter has a pistol, and then his other weapon is a remote control for the bot. I think you can have the bot autonomously fight people. You use that gun to target someone, and then the bot will do it. I've been controlling the bot directly, which I think slows down Racter. You have to spend one action point every turn to control the bot directly. So I think I've been using the bot wrong. Next time we get into a fight, I'm gonna try this out. Anyway, Racter. Racter's shop is sweltering hot, even more so than it was the first time you stepped inside. The whir of actuators accompanies the fine motions of the manipulator arms that hang from the ceiling. They are turning an object over and over in their articulated hands, soldering wires and hammering rivets. Ah, my friend, welcome back. Racter touch types a series of commands into his bracer, and the arms relax into an idle posture. He smiles at you, a cigarette dangling from his lip. There, that's better. Now, what can I do for you? How are you getting along with the other members of the team? Perfectly well, thank you. They all seem competent enough, and there haven't been any major personality conflicts so far. He rubs his chin thoughtfully. So long as they continue performing to an acceptable standard, I can see no reason not to continue our arrangement. It's good to run with the team again. Sure, alright, but what do you think of them personally? I don't think he cares. If anything changes, let me know. It's important that the team morale stays high. So, as long as they continue performing, so he only cares about how people perform. Right. Alright, if anything changes, let me know. It's important that the team's morale stays high. He raises a finger. You don't manage morale, my friend, you manage the team. So long as we continue to succeed, morale will take care of itself. I don't know about that, Racter. I don't know about that. You're still something of a mystery to the group, Racter. Mind if I ask you a few questions? No, I don't mind, not at all. He takes a drag on his cigarette and slowly releases the smoke. I can't promise that my answers will satisfy your curiosity, of course, but you may certainly ask. What was it like growing up in the Russian Republic? Tumultuous, as you might expect. You probably aren't old enough to remember the Euro Wars, but I am. I'd like to hear about them. My country was the instigator of the first Euro War back in '30. I remember the rhetoric. The hardships of living under a wartime economy, the rampant xenophobia that took hold. I remember how we all cheered when our forces invaded Poland. 3 months, that was all that it took for our military to crush what meager resistance the Poles could bring to bear. It was quite the source of national pride at home. I remember our drive into Germany and the desperate bid to reclaim the eastern portion of that country for ourselves. Just think about the symbolic significance of such an act, an audacious move to be sure, but Secretary Kropotkin was determined to make history. Yeah, in the same way that Stalin was. Well, Stalin... No. Stalin moved into Germany because Germany attacked Soviet... Germany attacked the Soviet Union first. It's like Stalin was just self-defense. Whereas the Euro War, this war, the Russians attacked first. Audacious move. You're talking about the overthrow of a sovereign nation, not a maneuver in a chess game. I don't care about sovereign nations. I do care about the people who get killed as a result. Yeah, in the same way that Stalin was not. It's not the same as Stalin. So what happened? Did the German military stop you? No, the Night Wraith incident did. Night Wraith? British-made fighter bombers with stealth capabilities. Very state-of-the-art, very powerful. At least that's what they were purported to have been. Nobody has ever come forward to accept responsibility for the attack. Oh yeah? So the British... Regardless of who was behind it, the result was the same. Wave upon wave of bombings that targeted our forces and the Germans alike, coupled with the assassinations of dozens of military leaders. A devastating synchronized operation expertly carried out over the course of a single night. At home, viral attacks shut down our power grids. Hundreds of thousands of Russian homes found themselves without heat or electricity in the dead of winter. I don't think that would actually be as effective as the story. And like the story goes, oh, somebody just came in and killed everything. I mean, you shut down the heat and electricity, people just burn wood, right? They just go get firewood. Like, you need a lot of bombs to blow up an entire army. Like, over the course of a single night, I don't think the story writer understands the scale of what they're saying. Because if you're considering, like, the Russians are pushing into Germany, we're talking about millions of soldiers. Millions and millions of soldiers. So to kill millions of soldiers, you have to drop millions of bombs. Right? Because they're all spread out, they're not just all standing close together, you kill one. So you have to drop a lot of bombs, unless you're nuking them. Even if you're nuking them, you have to like nuke the entire Germany. Like the front line would like stretch across the whole country. You'd have to nuke the entire line. We're talking about thousands and thousands of nukes. Or like millions and millions of conventional bombs. And so to deliver those millions of bombs, you need hundreds of thousands of planes, or maybe even millions of planes. So I don't... Have you seen millions of planes? Are there millions of planes in the whole of Europe? No, there aren't. There aren't that many planes. So the scale doesn't make sense. Right? You do the math. Like, look at a map. Like, go like measure how big Germany is, how many bombs it'll take to cover the entire front line, and like do the math, and you can't do it in one night. There's just not that many planes and not that many bombs. I mean, maybe there are that many bombs. There aren't that many planes in the whole planet to do that in one night. Right? Right. Koschei scuttles forward, allowing the rigger to rest his hands on the sloping metal of its chassis. Racter stares at his own deformed reflection in the metal of the drone's body, a sad smile on his face. I remember huddling under a mountain of cheap blankets that my mother had piled up on my bed. They did little to protect me from the cold, but they were something that I could hang on to. Something tangible that I associated with warmth and comfort and home. There, as my bodies trembled and I watched my breath frost over, a horrible truth descended upon me. We had caused this. We were the villains of the first Euro War. Yeah, you were. Yes, you were, Racter. I mean, not you personally, you were just a little kid. Your country did. For the first time, I came face to face with what Kropunen's folly had brought us. And there, under that ridiculous heap of rags, I came to realize what would surely come to pass. The world thought us villains, and so they would treat us like villains. We would be pariahs on the international stage, crippled by retributive sanctions. We would never live down the shame. He wipes his hands as if cleaning them. A wry smile spreads across his face. And then the AFA invaded Greece and Spain, sparking off Euro War II. We redeployed our troops to help repel them, and all was made right again. You're only the villain until the next villain shows up. Reality is, everyone's a villain. There are no good guys in the world. That easy, huh? I have to imagine that you still had enemies in Poland and Germany, even after the start of the Second War. Oh, we were still regarded with suspicion, of course, but all of Europe might have fallen if it hadn't been for our help. In essence, we took back our reputation at gunpoint. Not an ideal solution, I admit, but it worked. But like, if you look at the history of Europe, it's basically that. Like everyone's, especially like medieval, Middle Ages, and Renaissance. Like everyone attacks everyone else, and like you're the bad guy. No, you're the bad guy, and then oh, I'm invading you, or you invading me. Just go around and around, over and over again. Within the span of 4 months, we Russians had gone from nobodies to a terrible threat to unlikely saviors in the eyes of the Western world. Studying exactly how this happened has taught me a great deal about human psychology and social dynamics. Human psychology, you say that as if you weren't one. He laughs, just a figure of speech, my friend, nothing more. Now, should we talk about something else? Surely there are more interesting and relevant things to discuss. You mentioned that the Second Euro Wars was sparked off by the AFA. Who were they? Africans? He takes a drag on a cigarette. Ah, yes, I suppose that you wouldn't know. They were only active for the years surrounding the conflict, after all. The AFA was the Alliance for Allah, serving under Mullah Sayyid Jazariya, a coalition of right-wing Middle Eastern governments that assembled after the failure, some say sabotage, of the United Islamic Conference. They looked to a weakened Europe and saw an opportunity, one that my country was entirely responsible for creating. So they launched a surprise attack. So the AFA invaded Europe, but Russia was really to blame. So they launched a surprise attack. Yes, but in hindsight, we should have foreseen it. Ultimately, the AFA did what any hawkish power would have done in their position. I cannot fault them for taking advantage of Europe's weakened state. Given their circumstances, they would have been foolish not to. So what happened? How did the war end? The AFA folded in 37 after Jazaria's assassination. A lucky thing for us too, the body count could have been a great deal higher. I don't think it was luck, Racter. He was assassinated. Somebody killed him. In the years that they were active, the AFA gave us a hell of a fight. Did you emigrate directly from Russia to Hong Kong? No. Between my years in Nizhny Novgorod and my time here in Hioi, I spent a year in the free city of Berlin. That was where I got my feet wet as a Shadowrunner, you see. I ran with a team of anarchists for a time and learned the ropes of the occupation under their tutelage. What can you tell me about that team of yours? He shrugs. A good group of people, disorganized to be sure, but capable. Sadly, we are no longer on the best of terms. What happened? An opportunity arose and I seized it. In so doing, I left Berlin for Hong Kong, and I did so without much advance notice. My absence made life difficult for them, and they blame me for their hardships. You're a grown man. If you wanted to leave, you were under no obligation to stay. Was he? Were you under obligation to stay? Did you owe money? Thank you for taking my side, but I can see their point as well. As I said, my departure caused some complications for them. That said, I haven't lost any sleep over it. I merely did what I had to do. I mean... right. He looks away, a wistful expression on his face. Kostji scrapes the ground with his forelegs, its senses fixed firmly on you. Ultimately, I would say that my time in Berlin was quite educational, different from my earlier life in Russia to be sure. As I said, the experience was invaluable. Ultimately, though, Hioi is probably better suited to my sensibilities. How so? Life in Hong Kong is more structured than it is in Berlin. Things make sense here in a way the flux state didn't. He taps a finger to his temple. I have an orderly mind, everything in its place, neatly labeled and filed away. This approach is what allows me to make sense of the world. To say that the people I knew in Berlin thought differently would be an understatement. I don't think the flux state is really that crazy, Racter. Anyway, why don't you move from Russia to Berlin? He holds his tongue for a moment, considering. When we first met, I told you that I parted ways with Christian Aviacore under unfortunate circumstances, yes? You mentioned it. These same circumstances led me to Berlin. I was wronged, and I would not find recourse in Russia, he sighs. I suppose there's no sense in being vague. I'll tell you the story if you want to hear it. Alright, go on. Please, lay it on me. You may remember the self-repair system I mentioned the first time we met, the module that would allow Koschei or any sufficiently equipped drone to repair itself. I told you that my research had been lost, but that was not strictly true. It was stolen by a pair of colleagues who I had long considered friends. They were researchers from my old lab. They turned against me, stole our work, in truth my work, and defected. They betrayed you, huh? Yes, driven by desperation, no doubt, and ambition. They had always been fixated on getting out of Russia. Christian Aviacore was a nationalized corporation, and they would never get rich as cogs in a government-controlled machine. In our project, they saw their key to breaking away and earning their fortunes, never mind the fact that I was opposed to the idea. And so they took what was mine and left me with nothing. Really? There's no backups? You didn't back up your data? And so you followed them, I take it. Yes, the two had long spoken about moving to Berlin. Such was true of a great many academics in Russia. My homeland is a bureaucratic dictatorship, you see. There is little personal freedom, and there are many rules to be followed. As you might imagine, the stable anarchy of the flux state can be an alluring concept to those who live under totalitarian rule. Berlin is much romanticized back home. So you assumed that your former colleagues had run to Berlin. It was the only thing that I had to go on. At best I would find them, at worst it would be a good place to rebuild my life. And of course to establish the web of contacts that I need to track my betrayers down. There's a squeal of tortured metal as Koschei drags his claws over the iron grating that covers the floor. Racter glances down at the drone and it goes calm. He takes a deep breath and continues. Koschei is not an ordinary drone. I've been thinking about this for a while. It's possible there's a human brain in there. It's possible there's a human brain inside that machine. This thing is more alive than a drone should be. It took me over a year to locate my former friends. It was a long, painstaking search, but I was nothing if not determined. I finally found evidence that they'd used my research as a bargaining chip to secure positions at Ares, and that they were here in Hong Kong. And so you came here to Hioi. He nods. I picked up and left the next day. My old team was upset, to be sure. Lucky Strike in particular howled for my blood, but I know where my priorities lie. Oh, Lucky Strike? And so here I am, and here they are, and soon I'll be ready to act. Oh, you haven't gotten them yet? Well, let's get them, Racter. I really must thank you for inviting me onto the team. Your abilities will be invaluable when the time finally comes to make my move. Assuming, of course, that you'll be willing to help. Something tells me that you weren't surprised when I invited you on the team. You were waiting for this, weren't you? Of course, when you're ready, just say the word. Something tells me that you weren't surprised when you were waiting for this, weren't you? I thought that it might go over better if you believed it to be your idea, and it would seem that I was right. I'm on the team after all. Yes, you are, and you're right. I, for one, would be happy to help you. When you're ready, just say the word. Thank you, my friend, but this is a discussion for another day. We aren't ready to hit on an Ares facility yet, and there's more intelligence to gather before we make our move anyway. When the time comes, I'll let you know. Alright. What can you tell me about the colleagues who stole your work? Today they call themselves Taylor and Hardingham. He speaks through clenched teeth. Koschei drags a claw across the ground, and you can hear the squeal of metal on metal. Those aren't their real names, obviously. They shed their former identities when they left their old lives behind. What were they called when you worked with them back at Grishanavia Corps? It doesn't matter. Those men are as dead to me as they are to the world. My old colleagues no longer exist. Taylor and Hardingham are all that remain. They are targets now, nothing more. He idly brushes Koschei's armor's chassis with the fingertips of his right hand. Oh, how wonderful it will be to find them. What a reunion we'll have. This stolen research means more to you than money, doesn't it? He nods his head. Yes, much more. It was my life's work, and it was important. Reducing it to a bargaining chip was a deadly insult, both to me and to all those who would benefit from my work. It's just a self-repair system for a drone. How important can it be? You say that with an almost religious fervor. I don't think I've seen you get this intense about anything. The corner of his mouth tilts upwards. I suppose that's probably true. This is a matter that is near to my heart. Indeed, it ties into the guiding philosophy of my life. Your guiding philosophy is to make a self-repairing drone? Tell me, are you familiar with the concept of transhumanism? Yeah, no, he's gonna put himself into a bot. I knew it. Are you familiar with the concept of transhumanism? The transformation of humanity as a species by technological means. Huxley coined the term in the late 1950s, I believe. And there's a human brain in that bot! I swear. He nods. Yes, that's right. The seeds of the idea trace back even further to the 1920s and J.B.S. Haldane. But it was Huxley who popularized it. And now the transhumanist vision has progressed beyond philosophy. It is fact. Look around you. Cybernetics are a fact of everyday life. The synthesis of man and machine is the crowning achievement of meta-humanity as a people. I believe that we are well on our way to a truly post-human future, one in which the synthesis of man and machine is perfected to the point that the terms become interchangeable. Sure, we're getting there. We're not quite there yet, but we're getting there. In such a future, the capacity for unlimited self-repair would be indistinguishable from immortality. You can see then why the theft of my research comes as such a blow. My former colleagues hadn't just stolen from me. They'd taken my contribution to the future of our species and reduced it to a bargaining chip. But it would still contribute to humanity even after it's been used as a bargaining chip. I mean, knowledge is knowledge, right? Technology is technology. So, when are you planning on killing them? He might not be planning on killing them. He might be planning on turning them into machines. Yeah, I get it. I'd be upset too. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be upset. So, when are you planning on killing them? Soon enough. I'm still narrowing down their locations. Ares Asia Holdings has enclaves all over this island, and it wouldn't do to raid the wrong one. All will be made right soon enough, though. I'm nothing if not a patient man. I can wait. He rises, brushes himself off, and with that, I'm afraid I'm going to have to bid you good night. I've taken enough of a break for one evening, and there's still work to be done, and it would be lax of me to put it aside any longer. Alright, thanks, Racter. It was interesting. He nods at you. Good night. Alright. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, he wants to make self-repairing machines, he wants to put himself into his drone. Sure, sounds like a fun hobby.